They are 3 conversations away, framed by warm lamplight and the low hum of a crowded room. Nothing about the way they move begs for attention, yet attention gathers around them like iron filings racing to a magnet. People lean in. Laughter lands on cue. Compliments arrive with precision. You're introduced. In 2 minutes, it feels as if the rest of the party has dimmed and narrowed into the small distance between their eyes and yours. Your story sounds better in their presence. Your jokes find an audience they never had before. It is effortless, almost suspiciously so. We often label this moment chemistry. Some call it fate. But what if, in many cases, it is neither? What if it is technique, learned, practiced, and refined through repetition until it looks indistinguishable from nature? That is not a cynical claim. It is a philosophical one. There is a difference between technique that expresses character and technique that substitutes for it. Knowing that difference protects your time, your attention, and the sort of love you're trying to build. Today, we are not here to moralize anyone's history. We are here to read patterns. Patterns do not lie for long. They speak a language that charm can imitate for a while, but never fluently. Start with pace. Healthy connection has a cadence you can feel. Curiosity, then context, then trust, then courage. Aristotle called this the golden mean, virtue as the middle way between extremes. Intimacy is similar. Too fast becomes fusion. Too slow becomes indifference. When someone moves you toward rapid emotional exposure or sudden physical closeness, as if opening a familiar app, pause. Speed may be confidence. It may also be habituation, the erosion of natural caution through repetition. First times cannot be rehearsed. When a first feels startlingly practiced, it usually is. Shift to the other extreme, the performance mask. You meet a dazzling persona, witty, fluent, worldly, but the person behind it remains securely behind glass. When questions brush against meaning, humor redirects the conversation. Timelines rearrange themselves between tellings. You learn a lot about preferences and playlists. You learn almost nothing about formative pains, non-negotiables, or the private rules by which this person governs their life. That is not shyness, it is strategy. Walls keep danger out, and connection, too. You are invited to the foyer, never the living room. Consider the economy of attention. Some people maintain a constellation of weak ties that together simulate one strong bond. Old message threads remain open channels. Former partners become just friends, who somehow always text at 11:47 p.m. A rotation of helpers, drivers, fixers, confidants fills practical and emotional roles that prevent any single relationship from becoming essential. The point is not to forbid friendship. It is to observe the pattern. If attention is treated like a diversified hedge against loneliness, depth will always lose to liquidity. Watch how closeness functions. In healthy love, closeness is an expression because the bond already exists. In precarious arrangements, closeness can be a tool because something else is being purchased: reassurance, compliance, leverage in a conflict. The timing is the tell. Affection spikes when a favor is needed. Affection dips when a boundary is enforced. This is transactional weather. Sunny when you comply, stormy when you don't. Your nervous system understands before you do. You find yourself performing for access, monitoring tone, editing needs, over-explaining, because the price of closeness keeps fluctuating on an invisible exchange. Name another pattern: emotional operations. Some people learn the control panel of human response with experimental precision. They don't merely get you. They observe cause and effect. A small withdrawal triggers your rescue reflex. A tear coupled with a half apology buys 30 days of grace. An argument the night before your deadline extracts the largest concession. Intermittent reinforcement, the most addictive schedule in psychology, keeps casinos alive and relationships unstable. It also masquerades as passion. Volatility makes moments vivid. Adrenaline gets misread as depth. Notice reverence, or the lack of it, for private moments. Some people treat what is personal with quiet hands. Others narrate the same moments as if reading an itinerary. When repetition dulls sacredness, disclosure becomes casual, a tactic for status or connection rather than the careful handling of something intimate. If your discomfort with oversharing is framed as insecurity rather than as a boundary, don't fight the label. Observe the value system it reveals. Philosophy asks not only what people believe, but what they treat as holy. That is where identity lives. Trace narrative shape. If someone's relationship archive repeats the same arc, meteoric beginning, rapid fusion, and early peak, then a hard stall, ask what is actually being pursued. Novelty pays in chemicals fast and early. Endurance pays later through repair and reliability. A person who has never practiced maintenance will confuse the flat lines of ordinary life with boredom and go searching for a sharper graph. This is not villainy, it is a muscle untrained. But if you want to run marathons, you must choose a partner who trains for distance. Remember the attention economy. If a person's sense of self-worth is indexed to likes and applause, quiet rooms will feel hostile. The algorithm rewards provocation and novelty, not depth. Watch for withdrawal symptoms, an inability to rest from posting, the panicked need for new eyes, the covert checking of who watched a story and when. If affection must be continually auctioned to the highest bidder, exclusivity will feel like scarcity, not sanctuary. Measure capacity. Intensity and intimacy are different currencies. Intensity is event-driven, spiking during conflict or euphoria. Intimacy is practice-driven, accrued through reliability and repair. If someone can recite the poetry of connection but cannot sit in quiet discomfort without escalating it, believe the data. The ceiling is low not because you are lacking, but because a protective system is in place. That system once served survival. It rarely serves partnership. Beware avoidance disguised as discernment. Standards are noble. Moving goalposts are not. If stated criteria are met and a new bar appears, the problem is not candidates. It is vulnerability posing as selectivity. It is easier to escalate requirements than to risk being known. Partnership is not built on beginnings. It is built on skills you only learn across time. Conflict navigation without exit threats. Compromise that doesn't taste like defeat. The ability to say, "I'm not at my best today," without weaponizing it. Coordinating calendars, finances, and the 100 logistics that a romantic montage never shows. If someone excels at enchantment but stumbles at maintenance, you have not discovered a secret flaw. You have discovered a curriculum they have never studied. Comparison is another trap. The market mentality turns people into feature lists to be ranked against an endless catalog. Gratitude dies when alternatives are always auditioning in your mind. You will notice a hand that never fully lands on your shoulder because it is always reaching for a hypothetical improvement. You cannot outcompete an ideal. Decline to enter contests you never agreed to. Pay attention to scheduling. Closeness that arrives with eerie precision, after conflict, before requests, in cyclical waves you could chart, has been assigned a job. It is closeness in the service of stability, not desire. Again, that is a system. Systems are maintained for reasons. But you deserve a form of desire that looks like itself. Unplanned, sincere, occasionally inconvenient, never purchasable. Count the labor. Every meaningful relationship requires emotional work. Noticing, naming, repairing, apologizing, recalibrating. If you are doing almost all of it, you are not more loving. You are doing a job without time off. One-sided maintenance turns tenderness into exhaustion. Trying harder is not medicine for asymmetry. Boundaries are. Lift your eyes toward the horizon. People who practice only present tense romance often resist future tense planning. Specific commitments, coordinating money, choosing a city, merging routines, reveal where power and security live. If every conversation about next year dissolves into fog, you're being told a truth. This is a scenic overlook, not a bridge. Listen closely to stories. Everyone edits. Memory isn't a tape recorder, but some editing is strategic. Details that endanger allure are minimized. Contexts that justify poor choices are highlighted. Information arrives in carefully timed installments, often after you've crossed thresholds that make departure costly. Learn to hear the difference between human forgetting and curated omission. One sounds accidental, the other sounds arranged. Crisis is a teacher. Sometimes emergencies are real. Sometimes they function like stage cues to reassert centrality when attention drifts. The alarm rings the night before your presentation. The tearful escalation coincides with your first evening out with new friends. The urgent rescue is required exactly when your boundaries harden. You are not cruel for noticing. You are responsible for responding with clarity. Genuine crises receive compassion. Manufactured ones do not recruit your calendar, wallet, or sleep. Be mindful of normalization tactics. Discussions about freedom and modernity matter. They can also be used to launder behaviors that injure a particular bond. When questions about values or boundaries are framed as outdated or insecure, the conversation has been moved to a court where your concern is already guilty. Bring it back to first principles. What are we building? Does this practice help or hinder that project? You are not required to turn your goals into a debate performance. Survey the social perimeter. If your friend groups are subtly rearranged to isolate you from voices who might challenge the relationship's health, that is data. If small criticisms accumulate against anyone who provides a stabilizing perspective, your sister, a colleague, an old mentor, that is data. Healthy love is not threatened by the village that keeps you whole. It collaborates with that village. Step back. Machiavelli taught rulers to master the optics of virtue. Aristotle taught citizens to practice virtue until it became second nature. The question in love is similar. Is the performance an expression of something cultivated and real, or a mask that conceals a void where constancy should be? Technique can start a story. Only character can finish it. What do you do with this knowledge? First, slow down. Haste is the cheater's advantage. When the pace becomes reasonable, disguises grow expensive to maintain. Ask ordinary questions that flattery cannot answer. How do you repair when you are wrong? What does a dull Tuesday look like for you? Who tells you hard truths? And what do you do with them? What did you change in yourself after your last ending? These are not interrogations. They are off-ramps from the stage into a real room. Second, measure consistency, not intensity. Does the tone of month 1 echo in month 5? Do stated values survive inconvenience? Does curiosity survive conflict? Does tenderness survive silence? Intensity can be scheduled. Consistency must be lived. Third, refuse the audition economy. You are not applying for a role called person who never needs. You are interviewing for a partnership. Standards are not walls to keep everyone out. They are doors with rules for entry. You can be generous and specific, soft and clear. To borrow from the Stoics, love is not a deity demanding sacrifice. It is a practice demanding alignment. Fourth, trust your discomfort. A body trained to ignore red flags will often feel relief when it repeats them. Relief is not proof of rightness. When your chest tightens for reasons you cannot yet name, do not outsource that sensation to the other person's interpretation. Breathe. Take time. Put a second mind on the matter. Someone who loves you enough to say the sentence you least want to hear. Fifth, treat patterns as probabilities, not prophecies. People can change, but change is not declared, it is demonstrated. It looks like therapy attended, habits replaced, amends made without performance, friendships rewoven, calendars altered to reflect new priorities. It looks like a life reorganized to make recurrence difficult. Hope is healthy when it works with evidence. It becomes superstition when it refuses to read the ledger. If you recognize yourself in any of this, there is no need for condemnation. Techniques without character are protections that once kept you safe. If it's time to retire them, do so with ceremony. Thank them for their service. Then learn the slowness that once terrified you. A love worthy of your future will not be impressed by how soon you say we. It will be moved by how well you say sorry, by how carefully you keep a confidence, by how faithfully you show up on an unpoetic week. When you meet someone who seems to have rehearsed your favorite story, enjoy the scene and ask for the whole play. Watch for the set changes. Notice what remains when the applause fades and the costumes return to their racks. Character is who stays when the spotlight leaves. Choose partnership that is a studio, not a stage. A place where two people apprentice themselves to the craft of care. Charm will still be welcome. Technique will still have a job, but they will no longer be the show. They will be tools serving something quieter and more durable. Two lives aligned on ordinary days. If this inquiry helped you see the patterns shaping your choices, stay with the channel. We will keep asking the questions that clear the fog from the mirror. Philosophy applied to daily love, practiced at human speed. And if someone you care about keeps confusing adrenaline for depth, pass this along with kindness. Real connection is not an accident of chemistry. It is a decision, rehearsed on Tuesdays, kept on Thursdays, renewed on Sundays, by people who choose to grow where they stand.